All right. Good morning, everyone. It's a nice and bright day in Vancouver today. We are going to talk about go deep dive into zipBoard, a visual content review tool. Thank you for joining in. It's great to see a lot of audience, and we want to make sure that you get the most out of this session. The idea is to go through as much as possible in half an hour and go through Q&A later on. Before we begin, we just want to tell you that we will have a Q&A session at the end, but you can always post your questions in the chat or in the Q&A. In the Zoom window, this session will be recording, and a recording of the session will be shared with the registrants. Who am I? My name is Bhavya Agarwal. I am the founder and also the chief ideator of zipBoard, really. So, true story, I like what your life is now for past 2 years has been my life for 10 years. I've been working remote, and I've been trying to get a lot of creative and content reviews and software reviews, development tasks done. I would find myself going through Snagit, putting notes in Snagit, attaching it to email, and it was a chaos. And that is really what I'm here to change. We want to make the entire process of content review and production easier for creative and content teams, everybody to stay connected in one place. As I shared before, today's agenda, we are going to go through a quick overview of zipBoard, just to give a background of what is the problem that we solve, why we built it, and then move on to a product demo, a deep dive into how you can use it for content reviews, and then Q&A. So really the idea of zipBoard is to connect internal teams with reviewers, any kind of creative content that goes through a huge amount of back and forth between stakeholders. And we feel like the reviewers work with only one set of team members, and then the entire other team is sort of siloed from the actual reviews. So we want to make one connected platform where it's not the case. We're not wasting time translating information from reviewers back to the team members who are really working on things day in, day out. A few things that we have found is that over 1 million organizational interactive digital content is produced every day. I'm sure that number is way more if I have to look at all kind of content that is built every day. And all that content has a lot of visual back and forth. There is interaction happening in different ways. People are sharing feedback on spreadsheets, sharing feedback on as videos, in Zoom calls, in Microsoft Teams calls, or even through social media or through Slack and whatnot, right? So it's so disparate, it's so disconnected that there is a huge loss in the time that goes in just moving things from here to there. And also meetings, like imagine having to do a web page review and 10 people dialing into a meeting. That's a lot of time wasted. Everybody, if they could do the same thing asynchronously at their own pace, it would just save a lot of time. But somehow, the whole idea is people are still like coming on meetings because there are no good ways to do reviews asynchronously. How we are changing really this in zipBoard is we really have 3 main pillars of how zipBoard helps in the entire process of content reviews. One, we want to make it contextual. So if you are, let's say, reviewing a web page or you're reviewing a video, you cannot possibly have 2 different windows, have like some notes somewhere in a spreadsheet and the video playing somewhere else, and then trying to take notes and making context out of it. What you need is really context right when you're viewing the content. And that's what we have done very uniquely, that you can actually give context right when you're viewing the content. Second, very important part is we do realize the larger the teams, you do have existing workflows, some workflows that the devs use, some workflows that the designers use, or some the others that you use with your support and customer success teams. So we want to make sure that you can integrate all this contextual feedback with with your workflow. So either using APIs that we have, which are extensive, or using which give you also ways to customize the workflow, or using the integrations that we already have pre-built. And the third thing that we have found, which I think again is very important for creative teams or content teams, that when content teams are working on content, they're not just working on one type of content. The same teams are producing videos, they're producing maybe even brochures, PDF documents, emails, landing pages, websites, and whatnot. And having to again use 20 different tools to do the same thing, it can be a lot of waste of time. It can again confuse the clients, confuse the SMEs where you're getting the feedback from. So you want to keep it all centralized. So really all these three things is what we feel makes it easy to make the process of content reviews easy. The really, before I jump into the product more, the idea is to empower creators with review tools that collaborate, that help you collaborate from the client side or the SMEs to back to your dev team, to your design team. Everybody stays connected, and not just for one type of content, for all kind of content, so that you can deliver your projects on time, on budget. Before I jump into the next thing, I want to take a pause here and just ask everybody what are you guys doing for your content reviews? Share in the chat. What is it that you feel like is missing? How are you managing your content reviews today? I'll wait a few minutes before I jump into showing the product. I'll have to find ways to find the chat. Yes. Email, text, document sharing, Dropbox, once. Yes. Paying different fees for all of them, I agree. And plus also, I'm not sure how you're connecting all that feedback in one place. That's really the pain point that we are trying to solve, that you shouldn't have to do so many different places. You shouldn't have to manage it in many, many places where it becomes a pain for everyone. Thank you for sharing, Alexa. What I'm going to show now is really jump into the product, take a few steps in showing where all and how do you really set up your projects, how do you set up your content reviews, how do you set up your content reviews for internal stakeholders who have a different view and external stakeholders who have a different view. As I go along, of course, this will still be scratching the surface, but again, I would look forward to any questions that you guys have that I should be focusing on. What you see here is, and hopefully everybody can still see my screen, is a dashboard where you set up your projects. These projects are really individual. They can be set up the way the organization wants. Essentially, they have some set of collaborators, people who are part of the team who would be working on the project, some description that the way you can identify the project and so on. And once you go inside a project, and I'm going to pick one that has a few content pieces already. Once you go inside the project really is divided into a few areas. One is all the tasks and all the feedback that has come in, and as a result, all the tasks that has that that have aggregated because of the fact that there is feedback. Then this area is where all the content lives, and this is where the idea is that you should be able to add multiple content pieces in the same in a in the same project. So what we're really giving you an ability to add, let's say, a web page or a hosted course, an e-learning course as well, set of images, like if you have mocks to begin with, video, if you're reviewing a video, PDF documents, uh, let's say you're working on large drawings, engineering drawings, or any other complex PDF documents, or a zip file, which could be again HTML embedded inside zip, or it could also be SCORM courses again, which are HTML, but we do also read e-learning contents to be specific. So once you've uploaded your content, uh, everybody who's part of this project, and that's where I'm going to jump into the collaborator area. This is where you can add people who you know who are part of your team, and they will be working on viewing the content, working on the content, maybe uploading content as well. So these people will all be able to see the content as well. They will be able to jump in and review the content. So I've added here apple.com, and once I hit review, what it does is we open apple.com in a new tab, along with a few tools which help you leave contextual feedback. I'm going to wait till it loads. So just like I can interact with apple.com normally, I would be able to. I can see all the, I can interact with the page. And as soon as I have some comments to make, I can go to a review mode and pick some of the tools that are available to comment. So I will take a commenting tool and say, this text could be, so, I mean, whatever the text or whatever contextual information that you want to give, you can give, and you can continue to review further. Like I can go to another page, and I can continue to browse. And if I feel again there is something more that I want to share, I will again go to review mode, add my comments, and so on. And I could use these very tools as well if I wanted to say more about. Yeah, and if you notice, there's another thing that I can do is I can immediately add it as a task, which means that it will be assigned to somebody. It can be, somebody can process through it, or I can just check it off and use it as a comment. It could be like, oh, this looks great, and it doesn't need to be processed as a task, but it's just a comment or a note. I'm going to leave it as a task here. And what also is happening is we are logging all these comments, and all the comments from different people can be seen on the right, and I can jump into them at any point of time. So let me go here, and it will take me to that page, take me to that exact comment, so I can reply to it if need be, right? So that's what makes the entire process very contextual. You have all the information about, about where the comments are made, who has made the comment. You can go in and reply if need be. And when you're in the project mode, you can actually see these comments, not just in the visual view, but also in a table view. So if I go back to the task list, because I am an internal stakeholder, I added this as a task, and this, I can see this, I can see what the comment was made, where it was made, and I can actually go in and assign it to somebody in my team. I can mark its status that, okay, it needs to be, it needs to be worked on, and I can mark its priority, all those things that can make it easy to track, make it easy to organize what will happen to that content. You can also tag things. So let's say you know that, oh, I have so many tags with UI, but let's say this is a UI related issue, then I will tag it as a UI issue. And there are few things that we capture on our own, which makes it easy specifically for very tech, wherever, if it's hosted on a tech place, or if you're testing it for different devices and so on. It lets you see which browser, which OS, all the environment details, because you know what, your developer is going to ask you that, oh, can you tell me which uh, which um, which browser it happened on. I cannot reproduce it. So you want to make sure that it's easy to reproduce. You have all the essential information to do so. What you can also do is, because we do realize that you do not want the same view to be shared with your clients or your SMEs, people who are extremely busy, and they do not want to have to go through this, to go through this huge list of tasks or feedback and whatnot. All they care about is sharing feedback. So what you can do is you can really create a share link, which means that for the same content, when it's ready to be shared with your client, you can set it up in a way, if you don't want them to log in, you want them to see others' comments, and you want them to add their own comments as well. You can take this, send them as an email, or just use it, whatever way you communicate with the client. So copy this and share it with your stakeholders. I'm going to share this with Ariel, who's live here, and she can add a comment for me, just to show you how it'll look like if, first of all, where does the comment show up, and how it'll look like if if you have to look through that comment. So once I share this link for Ariel, the experience is the same. She will still be able to see, or any guest collaborators, they will be able to see this entire content, depending on how you set up your link. If you have set it up that you want them to see the previous comments as well, then they will be able to see the comments. Otherwise, they'll only be able to add their own comments. So once I do see that, there are two places where I can view guest comments. One is, of course, in this link. I will be able to see this in the list here if there's a new comment that has come up. The other place that we capture all the guest comments is where in a bucket here, really. So we separate that from an internal task, is because not every comment that comes from clients needs to be converted into a task. We know that some of it could be just a comment, could be a feedback that does not need to be fixed right now, or it's not something that you intend on fixing. So depending on, you will go through the comment, you will know all the details about it, you will have all the information about it, who added it as well. And if you do feel like this is something that you need to work on, you will add it to your task list, which means that you can now go in and assign it to your internal team member. You can again go through the whole process of adding it to the task. So that really separates your external stakeholders and internal stakeholders area, and they do not have to really get overwhelmed with all these details. All they do is they see the content, they add their reviews, and they're done. You can though reply to them so that they are aware of what is going on, and they can really they can go through your response, right? If you have a follow-up question, you can share that as well. Another thing that makes it interesting is like moving on to the next thing is the fact that when you will have many comments, as you can see here, these are still not a lot, but you have seen projects with a lot of comments coming in and a lot of tasks. You want to be able to filter them easily. So we have enough options to be able to filter through different, like if you want to know which content piece, if you want to see only comments for a particular content piece, you can do that. You can filter that. If you want to see what is assigned to me only, you can filter through that as well. Yes, there's nothing assigned to me right now. But essentially, this filtration helps you, again, go through a lot of comments, and everybody can set up their own filters to take care of what is relevant to them. The next thing I want to talk about is phases. Another thing that we've noticed is that content does not go through one phase. Like it goes through iterations and cycles. So what we have defined here is a way to set up your content review cycles and have them custom, because every team builds, and every content also sometimes goes through different kind of phases. Like some of them skip design, or skip maybe alpha, beta, or whatever. But depending on how you want to set up your project, you can really define your phases, which let you associate a particular content to a review cycle. So let's say I want to call alpha phase, this is my initial testing phase, and I want to complete it by the end of the month, and it's still on its the active phase, and I add that. Now in this phase, now I can add some of my content that I already have, or I can add new content. So let's say I want one of the content pieces to be part of this phase. So that means whatever tasks will be added to this phase now, in this link now, they will all have the phase associated with it. Or I could go into a particular task as well and change it to this phase. So, so every time, let's say I'm done with something and I want to move on to the next phase, I can move all my tasks, I can move all my files to that particular phase. Again, it makes it easy to move from review cycles to review cycles, and be able to organize your tasks and your deliverables in different phases. And another thing that you can do is you can actually view these tasks in a Kanban board, which can be moved around phases. So for example, I had this task moved to the alpha phase, but if I want to, let's say, move this task as well, I could do the same. Oops. So now there are 2 tasks in alpha and so on, and I can continue to add my phases. It can be more as custom as I want them to be. So for every project, they can be different phases and whatnot. So that really covers a lot of what how you can manage content reviews. There are a few more things. For example, I did talk about integration, and I want to just bring it up very quickly. Depending on how you set up your projects, you can set up integrations in a way that you can bring these tasks, push these tasks to, let's say, Jira, if you've connected this project to Jira or to Rai or some other tools as well, some of which we're working on, but we're very open to feedback. But you can push these to an existing tool, or you could also connect using our API. There's ample documentation for it, and use the review part and pull all the tasks into your system if you have a custom system available. That's another thing. And we also track things in terms of reports. So you can see this project is not really active, but overall you can see how many tasks were created, who were they created to, what kinds, what kind of tags exist, and so on. And this is not just at the project level. We are inside a project, but we have reporting also inside, depending on what plans you have though. We do have reporting also inside for the whole organization. So I can see for all my projects cumulatively, if I just want to see how many files I've uploaded, what kind of comments are being created, which is how many are reopened, how many get resolved. So definitely we do not resolve a lot of issues here, or we do not reopen a lot of issues here. But it'll give you a good sense of who are the issues assigned to, what kind of issues we create on a regular basis. So it gives you a better sense of how you can set up your projects better. On a day-to-day basis, you will be able to have a better analysis of how you can, what you can do to make your project performances better as well. Another quick thing I want to browse upon is the fact that, for larger teams, we understand it's not going to be one person who's a project creator who manages everything. We do have an hierarchical structure that you can set up in your So you can really set up an organization and have different roles. So you can, like, I'm a super admin here, but I have an admin who's able to see all the projects, can delete some of the projects, and can also go through reports and so on. But then I also have a manager who will be able to add their own projects, but they don't see others' projects. So all of this helps, especially teams building at scale, manage content easily and have their own silos. Sometimes there are privacy issues, security issues. You do not want one manager to see other managers' projects because of the client clearances and whatnot. So you can have separate spaces for each and every manager. And as an admin, you can view all of that. You can see the reports for all of that, and so on. So I am going to pause here because I feel like I have shared a lot of details that should be enough. If there are any questions, I'm going to watch out in the chat or in the Q&A panel. And before I do that, I'll also just quickly switch back to my presentation as well, just to leave some information for everybody. So we do have some really large teams using the product quite successfully. So I'm not going to share a lot more, but just to tell that these teams have been advanced enough to go ahead and set up a system which is help them be more productive, save a lot more time in managing their content. If you do need more information, and also set up a trial. If you want to set up a trial, you can set up a 15-day trial at zipBoard.co. You can learn more at help.zipboard.co, or also set up demo with us. We'll be happy to understand your current workflow, understand what really is needed to make sure that everybody's on the same page. And yeah. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending, and we look forward to hearing from you all. Thank you.